You claim to fight for freedom. But yours is a legacy of destruction. A legacy of death. It matters not who you surround yourself with, Mr. Parsons. No nation, no heroes, no sentinels you can assemble can hope to stand in the face of the inevitable. The moon is a constant reminder of the passage of time. Is it not fitting that now the end of your time is also the end of the moon's time? I will leave your world in ruins. Whatever remains will be mine.
Hey, it's Button Mashers again. This is Draco with Handelabra Games, Jeremy Handel.
How you doing?
All right, so your company makes Android and iOS games, is that correct?
For the moment, yeah. Right now, actually, the game we're working on right now, Sentinels of the Multiverse, is going to start as a mobile game, tablet-specific, iPads and Android tablets. But we're building it in Unity, and our goal is to release it, on PC, on Mac, and possibly next-generation consoles if there's demand there.
Okay, and going through it a little bit, I noticed that you can play with multiple characters, or is that like a one-player style, or are you trying to do multiplayer as well?
We will eventually, So the game itself is actually, when you play it on the tabletop, it is a cooperative game of 3 to 5 players. And one of the things that makes it so interesting from our point of view is the fact that the team that you put together can vary wildly in terms of, if you've got a couple of, really strong damage dealers and a couple of good buffing characters. And so the team that you put together can be pretty unique depending on who you pick. Now, on the tabletop, that's 3 to 5 different people. But on a tablet, a lot of the bookkeeping gets handled by the computer for you. So you can actually play one player, can play all the characters pretty easily. Our first release will be mostly either single player, one person playing on a single tablet, or multiple people playing on a single tablet in sort of a pass-and-play mode. But we do have every intention of releasing a fully network multiplayer cooperative version probably within a month or two of release is our goal.
Well, that's not too bad at all.
Yeah.
There's games like, there's a game called Brave Frontier that kind of caught my attention for a while there, since sitting in a work truck doing absolutely nothing is rather boring for 8 hours straight sometimes. So...
Yeah.
That game is kind of like, I guess I would say, an old Tactics Ogre game, where it kind of sort of has the ability to do multiplayer, but they kind of really haven't implemented it yet fully, because there's this thing called raid battles, which they've been talking about for a year or more, and they haven't really done, and it would involve multiple players. You're planning on doing this within a month. Is that a little bit of a far stretch, or do you currently have the code working right now?
It may be a bit of a stretch. We're basically, we're on a pretty accelerated schedule, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one, we're building an adaptation of a game. We're not creating a game from scratch. And so what that means is basically all of the balancing, all of the, sort of does the game work and is it fun? That's all already been decided. We're basically just trying to make as faithful of an adaptation as we possibly can in the digital world. So that allows us to basically... we don't have to iterate so much on gameplay. We mostly just have to iterate on how does it work on the tablet. The stage that we're at in development now, we basically have, I think, about 80% of the actual game engine complete. And by that, I mean the actual decks of cards. The base game, what they call the Sentinels of the Multiverse Enhanced Edition, comes with 10 heroes, 4 villains, and 4 environments, each of which is represented by a full deck of cards. And we have, I think, 6 or 7 of the heroes implemented, 2 of the environments, and 2 of the villains. And so, and we got more coming each day. We just finished another one yesterday. And so once the engine is working, it can be played. Then it's just a question of the UI that we're working on sort of a separate track on top of it in terms of how do you interact with the game? What does that look like? We've released a couple of screenshots of mock-ups of the direction that it's going, and that's coming along pretty nicely as well. And then once we are satisfied with the engine being completed and the UI in a place that we like it, that's when we'll start another track working on the network multiplayer, the back end. One of the cool things about the way it works these days is instead of implementing our own complete server solution from the ground up, we are actually going to be leveraging a lot of these sort of new platform as a service things where you can have, some transactional gameplay elements sort of handled by a third-party service and just pass back and forth, and we don't actually have to implement that. So I think that one of the reasons why we think we can do it so quickly is because we're going to be leveraging as many of those types of systems as we possibly can.
That sounds rather ingenious. I'm going to go ahead and say that. This is rather ingenious. But at the same time, it sounds kind of expensive. Do you have like a pricing model that can afford?
You mean in terms of what we're going to be charging for the game? Yeah, well, so for the moment, we've experimented with ideas of like, oh, should it be some sort of free to play or some kind of whatever. But we're just going to go with what digital board games tend to do these days is they sell at what would be considered a premium price for a mobile app, but they sell at that price. Games like Pandemic was launched at $6.99. Games like, what were some of the other ones? If you get, anything from $4.99 to $9.99 is actually not unheard of for a tablet version of these digital board games. And so, we're going to launch probably somewhere in the $4.99 to $6.99 range because it's not really the kind of game that really makes a lot of sense if you don't get all the content up front. It can't really be you get to play as one character and slowly unlock the other ones, or you can pay to unlock them. You really need to have everything before you can really play this game effectively and enjoy it. So we think a premium pricing is gonna work pretty well for us, and that's been borne out by other board games that have been selling at that price and selling well.
That sounds very reasonable. And I know I've seen the Game of Life on Android Play for like $8 to $10. I think I can't remember exactly what the price was. But most of those board games sell from anywhere from
Ticket to Ride was the other one I was thinking of. That as on tablets, I believe it sells for $6.99. They have a pared down phone version, which is like $1.99. We're not doing phones yet. This game has a lot of information you have to track at any given time, and we just can't figure out a good way to show that all on a phone screen yet. Doesn't mean we won't do it, but it's definitely something, we wanted to focus definitely on the tablet interface first, so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a good plan. Now, what is your plan for updates? Are you going to do updates pretty often? Are you going to kind of do them when you can? It's one of those things that most people hate to answer because updates generally are the meat and potatoes after you release a game.
Yeah. So the game itself already on the tabletop has 4 major expansions with a 5th planned coming soon, I believe this year. So our first sort of goal once we actually launch and get it into consumers' hands, into gamers' hands, is, make sure that it's playing well with what is the base sort of amount, and then start working on the expansion packs, while also working on, in a separate track, the network multiplayer. So that's kind of the two, we get it out, get it launched, and now we're immediately working on the network side of things and the expansions. And each expansion at this point has 2 heroes, 4 villains, and 2 environments. So, they're not small in terms of content. And our goal is basically, I'd say on a track of maybe every 2 months, having another one of those done. Because again, part of the beauty is we've built an engine where adding new content is actually pretty quick. So it's really just a question of spending a month creating the new decks and getting them into the engine and then testing them for 3 to 4 weeks and then releasing them. So we're hoping to basically keep the feed of content going, every couple of months once this game comes out.
That seems kind of quick. It's great that you have content that's already out there to base it off of, because it makes it very quick and easy, unlike an MMO that's bringing out a new level that's never been seen before, that has enemies that's never been seen before, with scripts that have never been done before, and they have to go through and pre-program it all and test it all, and it's months and months and months and months and months of work, sometimes years.
Yeah.
The question then would be, what happens when you run out of that already pre-approved and working content that you have to come up with your own?
Well, we're actually working pretty closely with the creator of the board game, Greater Than Games. And, I'm not necessarily at liberty to say exactly where they're planning on going with the property, but suffice to say they have a lot of content sort of in the pipeline already. So I'm not really concerned about running out of stuff to do. Plus, the game itself, I think, will be exciting for players, even with the content that comes out in the base version. You can play more than 100 different variations of the game with just the basic content. And once you add in all the current expansion packs, that goes up to more than 1,000. Because remember, you can play 3 heroes, 4 heroes, 5 heroes versus a villain. The new, most recent expansion pack is called Vengeance, which adds the ability to not only play multiple heroes, but also play against multiple villains. So in terms of mixing and matching content to make sure you always have a fresh experience, I'm not really concerned. The people who are already fans of this game on the board game side, they really enjoy the strategy of it. They really enjoy how much fun it is to sort of put different groups of heroes together and start figuring out what the synergies are in terms of, well, if I use Absolute Zero's power in this case and I pair that with Bunker's mode over here, that is going to bring a whole new aspect to how I might be able to defeat Citizen Dawn or Omnitron in this particular environment. So I think that from a content point of view, this is the kind of game that sort of keeps on giving. People just enjoy continuing to play it and learn sort of the nuances of the game.
Wow, that's kind of a good business plan, especially with you not being able to reveal what the board and card game is about or what they're going to release. Not about. I mean, going to release, because that's between you and them, and I know you're privy to that information, so that way you can make it the game. So it's kind of interesting to know that there's going to be content beyond this that they're working on that you can just fast track into the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, they are, if you're not familiar with the Sentinels multiverse, it's really quite astounding what they've done. They basically have come up with their own entire superhero pantheon. And it is, the characters are all familiar enough in terms of sort of hero archetypes, but they are all completely unique in terms of Greater Than Games creation. And the artwork is amazing. Adam Rebataro from their side has really come up with a whole look and feel for all of these characters. And from a story point of view, Christopher Bedell has come up with this just amazing history of this vast multiverse. They're actually already in the process of releasing a second game in this universe called Sentinel Tactics, which they just kickstarted about a couple months ago. And that takes sort of the storyline of the game to the next phase of it, where a few years down the line, the heroes have changed a little bit. So in terms of content, both of this particular game as well as the world itself, they're not letting off the gas. They are moving full steam ahead on making this, in my mind, and some people say that I'm prone to hyperbole, but I honestly see it as sort of a third great superhero franchise right next to Marvel and DC. Honestly, I think that they've got enough content and enough ideas in there to really make this sort of the next big superhero world, and we're just excited to be a part of it. Honestly,
I don't know. That kind of like shoots Dark Horse in the foot there, because Dark Horse has always been a great, not necessarily superhero, but anti-hero comic series or just comic franchise. There's been a lot of anti-heroes come out of like, oh God, I'm blanking hard right now. Oh, this is why you don't do morning interviews, kids.
Well, and I picked Marvel and DC for a reason, and it's because, as you say, there are a lot of other really great comic book franchises out there, but the superhero Batman Justice League side of things, and then the Iron Man Avengers side of things, that's what this feels like more than anything like like a Spawn or any of those darker more anti-hero-y type things. This is really more of a hopeful superhero world than an anti-hero dark world.
Also, thank you for joining us, Screw Loose. It's been a while since we've heard your magnificent voice. Screw Loose is in the mumble with me recording this. So yeah, how's Ohio treating you now, Screw Loose?
The sun sets so very late.
I thought you'd be used to that by now with being in Florida. Everything's slower and older and smells like mothballs.
It was 9:30 and the sun wasn't even down.
Dude, get used to it. Like up in Seattle, it's like 4:30 in the morning and the sun is just blaring in your window.
That's just not cool.
Anyway, So, okay, so Handelabra Games has not just Sentinels of the Multiverse, has Sentinel Sidekicks, Uncle Sam, Expo Bingo, and Square Shooters.
Ooh.
Can you take me through most of these games real quick here? If no one's ever heard of these, what
Sure.
Are the quick and dirty versions of these games?
Sure. So some of that, what you're seeing is the remnants of sort of the previous iteration of Handelabra as a company. We started in 2009 as just an app studio, and we wanted to do everything. We wanted to do camera apps and to-do list apps and games as well. And, so one of the things that we did under the auspices of that was something called Expo Bingo, which was our first sort of foray into the idea of anything even remotely gaming related. And what it was it was actually originally called Keynote Bingo. And the idea was that it was built on the idea that, when Steve Jobs or, Bill Gates or whoever it is gets up to give a keynote, E3 were good ones as well. You would sort of have a listing of here's what we're hoping they're going to announce and put it on a bingo board. And if they announce everything, you can announce that you got bingo. And we threw it together real quick in front of Worldwide Developer Conference one year when we were hoping that Steve Jobs would announce, I think this was back in the iPhone 3G days, and we were trying to say that he was going to announce the iPhone 4. It ended up actually being the iPhone 3GS, which was different. But anyway, so that was sort of our first game. It's still out there. It's still available. You can use it as sort of like a buzzword bingo in like business meetings and stuff like that. It's a fun little diversion. But that sort of wetted our whistle, and we wanted to build a bigger game. And so that was when we decided to build Uncle Slam. Now, Uncle Slam was an idea that was actually born out of my partner, John, who is actually Canadian. But he had this idea, what if you could do a fighting game where the characters were the presidents of the United States? And so that was how Uncle Slam, that was the sort of genesis of that idea, and we just kept playing with it. And one of the cool things about it is that it is a whole roster of characters, and you don't have to pay anyone for the rights to use them because they're public figures. So it's not celebrity deathmatch where we have to get Madonna and Michael Jackson and the singer from Nirvana and all these other people to sign off on likeness rights. The president of the United States is considered public domain, so we could use all the information about them, their likenesses, what have you, and just sort of come up with our own little spin on it. And so it ended up being a game that was marketed kind of poorly. I'll admit that. If you look at the game, it looks like a kid's game, but the actual fighting engine underneath it is a little bit more too complex for a kid. So people who were really into fighting games thought it looked too much like a kid's game, and kids thought it was too difficult to play. It's still out there. It's still fun. I still play it. But that was sort of our first experience building a large-scale game with a lot of content. We worked on that game for a full year and a half, I think, before we actually released it. And then we kept sort of adding new content to it for another year after that.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and quell some dissonance that will probably come up. When you said singer from Nirvana, I think you meant Kurt Cobain.
Yes, that is the one.
Okay, don't want people to start a rage war in the comments. Just saying.
He actually killed himself on my birthday. Fun historical note. Anyhow, so that was sort of Uncle Slam, and that really got us thinking. We would really much rather be making games than camera apps and to-do list apps and all the rest of it. This was also during the time that we were making something called Game Minder, which was an app that would track video game release dates. Because I was just sick of the idea that okay, I've got this game, I put it in my calendar, I can't wait to play it, and then it gets pushed by 6 months because development or whatever. And there was no good way for me to find that information if I wasn't sort of trolling the websites obsessively looking for this information. So our goal with Game Minder was to try and keep people up to date with that information. I still consider it to be a really good idea, but unfortunately we couldn't find a solid business model behind it, so we ended up shutting that down. But that was when we finally were like, all right, enough. Let's find a good, solid business model whereby we can make games and make money. And that was how it was under those sort of situation where we met Greater Than Games. It was actually, we were pushing our game Uncle Slam at PAX Prime a few years ago. They had the booth right next to us, and we were looking around for our next big project. They had this really awesome game called Sentinels of the Multiverse, and we said, hey, if you're ever thinking about doing a video game version of that, let us know, because we would really love to sort of partner on this project. And for various reasons, it couldn't really work out right away. But when it got to the point where they were ready, we were their first call. They said, hey, we're looking to do this. You guys said you wanted to. Let's sit down and have a conversation. And so that was actually, that was only almost 2 years ago at this point. And, we spent about a year sort of hashing out how the relationship would work. And then, I went out and actually had to raise some money to build a team. Our smaller team wasn't going to be able to get it done. So we've built up a team now. We've got about 7 people working on the game as we speak. And that's one of the other reasons why we think we can get it done pretty quickly, because we have, two full-time coders, a coder and a musician, a designer, a 3D person, and a PR marketing person, as well as myself. And so we are just, full steam ahead to try and get this game out just as soon as we can, because we just know that it's going to be successful, because it's already got a fan base. It's got an existing fan base of board gamers who love the property, and we just can't wait to get it in front of a much bigger video gaming audience.
That's a great way to start it off. I mean, like D&D made the jump into video games a long time ago with Baldur's Gate, and it took off. I mean, Baldur's Gate had, was it 2 sequels and 2 expansion packs? It had Neverwinter Nights, Neverwinter Nights 2. It had Dark Alliance 2, and Dark Alliance and Dark Alliance 2 were kind of the more popular ones, I would say. Baldur's Gate was pretty popular, but that was back in the day where being a nerd wasn't cool, and then Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance was on consoles, so being a nerd was cool then.
Yeah. I love being a nerd.
Oh, I love being a nerd too. And it's nice to see that more tabletop games are going video game route. I mean, you've got Magic the Gathering with online. That kind of sort of didn't really take off. Planeswalker took off like a bat out of hell.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think right now, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, board gaming, tabletop gaming is entering a new golden age right now. I mean, you see people like Will Wheaton with his tabletop podcast. You got shows like PAX, which give almost equal time to both the video game side and the board gaming side. As a hobby, it's growing, and that means that there's more people. I think there were a lot of people out there who either liked board games but didn't want to talk about it, or didn't even know they liked them because they never had been exposed to them. And now that is all changing. It's really going wide now, and these properties are moving so fast. Tools like Kickstarter allow someone with an idea to sort of make up a paper prototype, put it up, print up a couple hundred copies, get it in customers' hands, and see if it's working. And if it is, they can iterate so much faster than the way that it used to work, where you would have to pitch a game to like Hasbro. If they liked it, they would buy it. They would print 1 million copies, and then that was that. And it just doesn't work that way anymore. The speed with which you could come up with a game on the board gaming side is now starting to get closer to the way it is on, the indie gaming side for PC or for tablet or for phone, where all of these tools are making it so much faster and so much easier to find games that are fun and games that are working, and for them to find an audience. And that's what we think is so great. These properties are starting to build up fan bases through non-traditional means, and they just can't wait to get in front of even more players. And that's hopefully where we come in. As big as it's getting right now, the board gaming market is still, tiny, minuscule compared to the video gaming market. So if we can take that same property that's working, put it in front of the much larger video gaming audience, expose people to these types of experiences that they might not have seen before, maybe we'll make another board gamer out of them, And to me, that would be awesome.
Growing up, always thought the board gaming was I thought it was cool, but I could never get into it because there was no visual. There was very little available visually for me, and I never with numbers. So I recently got into Pathfinder on this D Pro. I can.
Hold up, screw this. You're breaking up bad. You're breaking up bad.
Better? Worse? So it goes.
Yeah. Anyway, I kind of heard Pathfinder in between, like, the breakups.
Pathfinder, yes. D20 Pro.
Okay. Yes, D20 Pro is an amazing virtual desktop or virtual tabletop, and I'm glad to see tabletops going towards that, because not all your friends are going to be local, and there's a lot of even in Houston, there's a lot of people that I don't want to play tabletop games with.
Or there are people who do want to play tabletop games with, but they live cross country or in Sweden.
Because
that's really that's it in a nutshell. it's one of the reasons why, you know, when I played Sentinels for the first time and I loved it, I bought a copy, I brought it home, and immediately discovered that I didn't have anyone to play it with. You know, I'm 37, I got 3 kids, and getting a group of 5 people together to play this game across an actual tabletop is just too difficult, honestly, these days. You know, if I could play the same game that I love while sitting on my couch with my iPad with my business partner who's in Halifax, you know, my 2 friends in San Francisco, and my new friend in Houston, that would be awesome.
That's what I want, is iPad. I want to be able to play at any time on my iPhone, anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we're doing Pathfinder. Well, I'm currently at the bar getting drunk. Let's play. They've been doing that kind of stuff for a while now. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Went virtual. There was an unofficial version that made the official version come out just to say, hey, we have an official version. Go play. Magic the Gathering had an official version. It had a soft start way back in the early 2000s, and then it was like a flop. They reworked it and came back with it.
Yeah, I think collectible card games was something that I was always a little skeptical that could work in a digital context. But, you know, they take Magic the Gathering and they put that in a digital context. They rework it, as you say. Now it's starting to work. And that is now leading to things like Hearthstone. You know, Hearthstone was designed as a sort of collectible card game, as a digital collectible card game from the ground up, and it's crazy fun to play. You know, and that's ever since that came out officially. I know it's been in beta for like a year and a half or whatever, but it's been officially out now for a couple of months, and that's one of the things that our team, whenever we have a few minutes to, you know, in between meetings or whatever, we'll all fire that up and play against each other, because it's exactly the kind of feeling and experience that we're hoping for with our game. You know, it's that idea of, I'm sitting alone, I want to get my game on, let's get it done. And it, you know, the way that the cards feel in that game is very much similar to what we're hoping to accomplish too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to make a digital card game from the ground up without a following, because it's one of those things like, oh, I got to pay money for this, I don't even know if it's worth it. And that's one thing that many people are running into nowadays. It's like, I don't know if it's worth it, because there's people working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. There's people barely making rent. I know I've been there. It's one of those things where if you have an established franchise and you turn it into a digital version, people are more likely to buy it. If you have a new version, it's going to take a lot of provocation for someone to buy it. And with Sentinels of Multiverse being an established IP, I think you're going to do pretty well, like charging what you want to charge for it, whatever that may be at the time of release. The question I now have for that is with expansion packs, there always comes a question of, do we charge or should we do free? Have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty cool. There's actually 2 things that are already built into the board game itself that allow us to actually do a little bit of both. So there's 2 specific things. One is promotional characters, and then the other one is actual expansion packs. And so what promotional characters are is alternate versions of the characters that are already in the game. So like Legacy is one of sort of the banner heroes. He's kind of almost like your Superman, Captain America type, sort of like staunch superhero. And he is sort of one of the main heroes. And there are several different versions of him. So there's, you know, a World War II themed Legacy. There is a young Legacy. And what we're at least what the plan is at this moment, you know, everything obviously is fairly subject to change, but we're pretty sure this is the way it's going to go, is the promotional versions of these characters you'll be able to unlock in the game, either by performing certain actions or earning enough victories or something like that. So those will be added for free as you sort of progress through the game. Whereas expansion packs are whole new characters, whole new environments, whole new villains. And we're basically just going to echo the model that they're doing on the tabletop, which is, you know, the base game to buy it is $40 and the expansions are $20 each. For us, we're thinking $6.99, $4.99 or $6.99 depending for the base game. And then, you know, $2.99, $3.99 for each expansion pack when they come out. We're also toying with the idea of allowing you to buy each individual character, environment, or villain for 99 cents, just because some people, you know, like those sorts of options. But again, that's something that is, you know, a little bit in the future. You know, we're not going to worry about the pricing of the expansion packs until we have one to actually release. And we won't know that until after we've already had the game out for a while. And we'll see how well it's selling. You know, if people are buying it in droves at $6.99, you know, maybe we'll do $3.99 for an expansion pack. If we have to cut the price because no one's buying it, maybe we'll reassess it at that time. You know, the long and short is we're talking about a $40 game, which sells pretty well at $40. So I'm not super worried that people are going to look at $6.99 or $3.99 and say, oh, that's too expensive. You know, if you're willing to spend $40 on a board game, you know, especially one with as much content as Sentinels has and as it's going to have on the digital side, you know, I think people are going to see the value in that.
All right. Screwless, any questions that, you know, require your internet to not be crappy?
Yes. Expansion packs. I think I'm a huge fan of the old style of expansion packs where it's not just, it's adding a lot of new content. And that's one of the problems I have with companies that they're expansion packs, but they're more just unlocks of stuff that was already there. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's kind of what I'm talking about is, you know, the difference between a promo and an expansion. You know, a promo is the same character, but just a little bit different. And those will be unlocked. You know, we don't think people should have to pay for that kind of thing. Whereas, actual new content, a new character with an entirely new deck of cards, new powers, new effects, you know, that's content. That's something that is to be added on. And, you know, so that's sort of where I see the line being drawn.
And how do you view the, what is it called? The kind of like in the app games where you pay, you get all the cool stuff immediately.
Oh, pay to win?
Yeah, pay to win.
Yeah, we're lucky in that our game doesn't really work that way. You know, this is a strategic card game. You know, you don't unlock new powers or new effects by progressing in the game. You know, what powers and effects you have available is determined by a shuffle of the deck. And your job as the player is to figure out what best strategy comes up based on what comes up in your hand. So it's not really a question of like, oh, if only I had like, you know, the Legacy's ring at this moment, I would be able to win. What if I paid 99 cents to get that ring? That's just not the way it works. You know, it's a core fundamental piece of the game that the deck is sort of what going to determine your destiny, and you as the player have to strategize with what you get. So, you know, luckily that's not an issue that we have to worry about with this particular game. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, I played a bunch of games out there where you have to do that.
Life doesn't give you that kind of do-over. Wait, I just want this.
Yeah. Well, also, with the talk of decks and Destiny, a bad vision of Yu-Gi-Oh! Just entered my mind, and most assuredly the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series. Did you just summon a whole bunch of monsters in one turn? Yes, that's against the rules. Screw the rules, I have money.
Yeah, there's so many games like that. Honestly, I've been playing a lot recently. There's a Marvel Puzzle Quest game that's on mobile right now, and I always have to sort of hold myself back because you build up your characters as you go. So like I have an Iron Man that I've got up to level 40, and I just, you know, it's completely random which power you get to level up at the next thing, or you can pay to do it. And so it's really hard for me to keep myself from paying to just, I really want to get that Ultra Freon Beam upgrade. I want to pay for it. Just, I don't care. And so I really have to hold myself back from that. And honestly, you know, I think that there is a place for that business model. And I'm not even saying that we wouldn't ever do it. But I think you really have to do it right to show that you respect gamers' time and money. You know, to me, the kind of games out there where that are purely pay to win, they leave a bad taste in my mouth. You know, they really tell me that you are nothing but a customer to me. And that's not why we got into making games. You know, we got into making games because we think that play is important. We think that the strategy of, you know, working with some friends to defeat this villain, that is something that should be respected. The time that people are willing to put into your game is something that should be respected. And if you say to them, you know, you're nothing to me but a full wallet, I don't really know why you're even in this business, honestly.
I mean, if you make a good game, the full wallet will come to you rather than you trying to go to the full wallet and say, spend money on me.
That, you know, that's a great way to put it. It really is. Yeah. You know, it's the twist on that classic, if you build it, they will come. You know, great content draws people to it. And you don't need to employ these like weird sort of tricks to try to trick people into spending money on your game, because they will spend money on your game. That's why, people who buy Sentinels for $40 have now spent an additional $140 on expansion packs. You know what I mean? Because they love the game, they enjoy it, and they got good value out of their money. It's why they'll spend $50 or $60 on a play mat that they can put down, which doesn't really add anything to the game except show you where to put your cards. It's because they love the property. They love, the feeling they get when they play it. What people say about this game more than anything else is that it's the first time they've ever felt like they're really playing a comic. There are comic games out there that are based on either Marvel or DC or whatever characters, and they let you participate in the broader narrative of these comic characters. But most people say this is the first game they've ever played where it feels like they are playing a comic book. And we really want to just hold on to that, because I think that really is exactly what it is. People read comic books and feel like they want to be a part of them. This is letting them actually play those comic books and really become a part of them. And we just think that that's terrific.
All right, last question before we head into the shameless plugging.
Shameless.
Oh God, you have no shame, Screwless. It's great.
Married, duh.
I think that means you have no dignity. But anyway, so when's the release date or the release timeline, would you say, of Sentinels of the Universe, the app?
So right now, our goal is to get it out in early fall. We are going to be showing the game off at PAX Prime this year, which is Labor Day weekend, so end of August, beginning of September. I would really love to have it available that weekend. I don't know that it will be, but we will definitely be showing it off there in a playable form. Our tentative release date is sometime in the following month, September of 2014. I stress again that is tentative, but right now we are actually ahead of schedule. Our schedule had us releasing right around PAX, and we are ahead of schedule currently. We're hoping to enter beta testing probably late July, early August, and if we do that, then we'll be on schedule for that early fall release.
That's a pretty short timeline, but you guys have been working on it for a while.
Yeah, so the team itself. If you count the team as myself and my partner, we have been prepping and planning for more than a year. The actual full-scale development began in April, where we built up the entire team. And again, part of the goal, from a business perspective, was I spent a lot of time and energy, and my partner did, planning and preparing so that when we actually went out and raised the money and built the team, all we had to do was execute. We're not spending a lot of time on process. We're not spending a lot of time on, sort of rewriting how one makes a game. We're just executing. We've got a team of experienced people who've built games before. My partner and I have built apps before, so we have a well-established sort of process. And it's really just a question of executing and then testing. And so, yeah, it is a fast timeline, but so far, like I said, we are actually ahead of schedule at this point. So we're moving along.
All right, shameless plugging. Go.
Is this for me to be shamelessly plugging?
Oh yeah. This is all about you. Shameless plugging.
Fantastic.
I mean, I'm like, okay, that was a terrible way to say to bring that in. I was just kidding anyway. But
there you go.
Yeah, shameless. What?
Calm. Smooth your boobs.
No, I ate 3 Pixie Sticks, man. How do you think I got home?
Smooth your boobs.
No. Anyway, no. So. Oh, is there anything you want to shamelessly plug or give a shout out to? Your team is also included on that, so
sure. So okay, well, we'll start with this. So obviously, if you want more information about the game, you can visit Handelabra.com, like candelabra but with an H. You can also go to sentinelsdigital.com. And that's where you'll find information about both the game that we're working on now, but also Sentinel Sidekick. We didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about Sentinel Sidekick, so I'll shamelessly plug that now. Sentinel Sidekick is a helper app for the board game. So if you play Sentinels of the Multiverse on the tabletop, there's a lot of stuff you got to keep track of. Hit points, ongoing effects, buffs, debuffs, all that kind of stuff. And the way that we actually fostered our relationship with Greater Than Games was by making Sentinel Sidekick, which basically allows you to do absolutely everything that you need to do in the game in an app. So you open up the app on your iPad or your iPhone or your Android tablet or your Android phone, you plop it in the middle of the table, and instead of having to use little, pieces of paper or dice or little, tokens, you use the app to keep track of all that stuff. And that's available on the App Store for Apple. It's available on both Google Play and the Amazon App Store for Android. And you can find out more information about that from sentinelsdigital.com. You can also join our mailing list from there. And I think that's about it. Anyone who wants to can certainly play Uncle Slam. Like I said, I still love Uncle Slam. It is no longer under active development, but it's still out there. It's a fun little sort of beat 'em up where you get to punch the president in the face.
Any chance you're going to put any of these games on Google Glass so you can all play virtually?
Ooh, interesting idea. Yeah, I think we'd have to wait until Google Glass is in more than a couple thousand people's hands to do that. But it's interesting. Like I said, our goal with this property is to put it on everything that you can possibly play a game on. It's going to be tablets to start, but then we're going to be doing a PC and Mac release, so it'll come out on Steam, probably the Mac App Store. We're really interested, honestly, in the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And one of the cool things about developing in Unity is that it's a pretty easy transition to go to any of those other platforms. You just have to make sure that your UI works with a controller versus a touchscreen. So that's definitely something that is in the pipeline.
All right, Jeremy. Sorry, I'm trying to scribble out all my notes here. Okay, I was a good show host. I made notes. I scribbled them out.
Notes?
Anyway, so Jeremy, glad to have you on the show. Handelabra, can't wait to see you at some of these conventions. Are you going to SGC at all?
SGC.
The Screw Attack Gaming Convention. Are you going to Rooster Teeth Expo, Anime Expo, any of these big conventions or big expos?
Yeah, when you said SGC, the first thing I thought of was Stargate Command, and I was like, wait a minute.
You just made Screwless a happy man.
I love Stargate. Anyway, so the first place that we're actually going to be showing the game off in a really sort of public way is PAX Prime. We actually went to the second ever RTX as Game Minder a few years back, and we had a great time. Those guys are awesome down there. But we probably won't be going this year. Simply because we want to, right now we're very head down. We're just getting the game done and we're getting it ready for its public debut at PAX. After that, we're hoping to go to some of the other things, sort of as we move forward from there. So we really love to see what's going on at PAX South, which I think is in January. Greater Than Games really wants us to go to PAX Australia in October. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they go to PAX Australia and they love it. Other than that, Origins or Gen Con next year, I'm sure we'll probably be at those. I loved RTX. We actually looked at the Escapist Expo last year. I don't know if that's still happening, but I don't know. Like I said, right now we're head down. Our next big sort of milestone is going to be PAX, and then after that, we'll see.
All right, man. Jeremy, thanks for coming on. Handelabra Games. If you guys have any updates or anything you want to come back on the show, just let me know and we'll figure something out.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, no problem. And guys, check out Handelabra Games. They have quite a bit on their blog. Go there, press the link right there. It's right there in the middle of the screen. Hard to miss. I'll make it bigger for you. Here you go.
Bigger.
There you go. Bigger. It's much bigger now.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Oh, aren't you just clever?
I know.
The stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
There it is.
Oh, man. I refuse to sing that song anymore. Dear God. All right, guys. Draco, Screwloose, and Jeremy Handel from Handelabra Games. See you later, and game on.
See ya.
Good night, everybody.